All right, welcome back to another episode of A Glass with Billy.
Where's my beer?
Your beer?
Yeah.
It's called A Glass with Billy. It's like metaphorical. Like
okay.
We're sharing an experience.
So here's my metaphorical beer.
Today I'm here again with, well, he needs no introduction, but
Come on, everybody needs an introduction.
It's Hyunwoo from Ttmik in Korean, which is the wildly successful website with podcasts, lessons, YouTube videos. Books, yes. And I was visiting the office today and I came here another day and they're working on so much new cool material, so even I'm getting excited about it. And I mean, I don't even use their videos for learning Korean.
You don't?
No.
You don't have to. Your Korean is already perfect.
I do admit I watched their Iyagi episodes, though. I think those are really great.
Thank you.
Today we are going to be talking about setting realistic goals.
Yeah.
I've gotten this question a lot. People will ask me, how much Korean should I be studying? Or what's a good Korean goal that I should make?
Okay.
And I was thinking we should first start by telling people, how did we study our foreign languages? When you're learning English, what kind of goals did you have for yourself?
My goals were very, I guess, small, especially during my first couple of years of studying English. So my goal was never to become fluent in English. It was just to solve this one set of questions in this test prep book, or to have this one conversation with this person, or I would find myself in group chats online. I would enter any random English chat rooms, and my goal for any given day when I was in high school was to have a successful, enjoyable conversation in English, text conversation, typing everything really quickly. So my goals were very, very small, and having small bite-sized goals really helped me pull through with the whole journey, I think.
That's interesting you would say that, because most Koreans that I talk with who are studying English, if I ask them, what's your goal for learning English? You can probably guess what Koreans usually say is their goal.
Yeah, they want to have 900 points on the TOEIC test,
or they want to speak English like a native speaker. They have these outrageously large goals.
Yeah, those are very vague and untangible goals, except for test scores.
Right.
Those are very specific, but other than that, I don't think you can go for those intangible goals. What about yourself? How did you set goals?
When I did Korean, I actually didn't have any specific goals for how long I was going to study or what I eventually wanted to do. It was more like, I'm in Korea, I want to be able to speak Korean better, so my goal is to just study as much as I can.
I see.
And if I heard a new word, then my goal for that day was, okay, I'm actually going to learn the words that I heard today. So it was kind of like a small day-by-day process. I didn't really have any overarching goals.
I mean, goals really do help, and it is important to have goals, and having goals is much better than not having any goals. But I think it is more important to think of why you want to learn this language, and if you have a why kind of overseeing everything, the goals, those things can change. If the why doesn't change, like why do you want to learn Korean? I think you can just adapt really quickly.
You actually just answered the next question I was going to ask. I was going to say, well, are goals even important? You know, Hyunwoo didn't really have any specific goals for English, and I didn't really have any really specific goals for Korean either. But would you say that goals are important?
Goals are important and fun, but goals are not everything, because you might be misguided. You might be just mistaken about something that you thought was important. I thought in high school, when I was learning English for the first time, I thought test scores were really important. But then when I actually entered college and started doing several part-time jobs, one of my part-time jobs was an editor, proofreader / editor for a publishing company that made English teaching textbooks for Korean people. And I even made all these random English quiz questions that potentially hundreds of thousands of people would buy the books and study with. And I had studied with those books too. Like, I thought getting a full mark on this mock exam was so important, but who made those questions? Just other people.
Other people who are taking the test.
Who might have been equally not fluent, like I wasn't fluent. So yeah, you might be mistaken, you might be misguided.
Yeah.
So I think why you want to continue learning this language is more important than really like tiny goals.
I think that's a really good point. A lot of people will set goals maybe around the New Year's or for whatever reason to study. Okay, I'm going to study Korean for 2 hours every day. It's great if you can study 2 hours a day, but if you're focusing only on studying 2 hours a day, then what are you missing?
Yeah, your goal can be to talk to your favorite K-pop artist in person if you get the chance to meet that person. But what if that person stops being a K-pop idol? Does the goal disappear?
Yeah, but some people it would. Well, why do I study Korean? My girlfriend broke up with me or something like that.
And then if that goal is gone, if you think about why you set that goal in the first place, the why is there to back it up. You realize, oh, I actually wanted to be able to converse about my passion in this language. It could be Korean, it could be Russian. So I think goals are important, and the goals don't have to be really grandiose, but why you learn the language is more important.
I want to add to that, you kind of already mentioned it, but a lot of people are learning Korean just because they like K-pop or something, and I think that's totally fine. I think whatever your reason is it doesn't matter as long as you have a why for yourself.
So in Korea, there are many Korean people who are in their 50s, 60s, or even 70s who have been studying English religiously, like every day, for the past 30, 40, even 50 years. And you can't really say that their English is great. Then does it mean they've wasted their lives? Not really, because they have a strong why. They just like to spend time learning one word a day, and they've enjoyed it. So even if their goals are not very clear, like why do you even bother learning this language if you've been spending 30 years on this language and you still can't speak fluently? I think it's okay because you have a very personal why, and you are happy with it.
If you visit Korea, you'll bump into those people sometimes. I was waiting for the subway and some 60 or 70-year-old man turns around and looks at me. He's like, "Oh, hello, you from America?" Like, what is this? Like, where did you get your English from?
Many taxi drivers too, they will look back at you and say random things in English just because it's just fun for them.
And you can be happy with any amount of Korean that you want to learn.
Sometimes you need a push though. Sometimes you can push yourself and think about it like, am I happy with this pace? Sometimes you need that push, but if your answer to that question is like, it's fine, it's not gonna change my life or something like that, it's fine.
Would you recommend that people who want to set goals, that they set a goal that pushes them or doesn't push them, or pushes them a lot, or pushes them a little bit?
So of course goals can change, but I think it is important to have goals that are related to your everyday life. So how many hours a day or how many minutes a day, it depends on how satisfied you are with the amount of time that you spend on the language. So if you spend 5 minutes a day and your brain is just aching from 5 minutes a day, that's fine. You shouldn't overwork yourself. But if you think, I've studied for 1 hour each day for the past 3 months, but I always feel like I'm lacking study time. You need to increase that until you reach that sweet spot. Maybe change up the textbooks.
If you're someone who you're feeling like, I just don't feel like I'm learning very fast, right? I don't feel like I'm getting any better. If you can, maybe you should push yourself a little bit more.
So I think it's really important to understand how you work in terms of learning something. So as a high school student, I was forced to join the dorms. So we were going to be the next batch of students who would represent the high school. I was one of the top, not to brag, but top 100 students in terms of...
You can brag about that. That's pretty cool, actually.
Test scores, rankings. So, and every Saturday, every Sunday, even when we didn't have any classes, we were forced to sit in the study lab, study room, from early in the morning until very late at night. So you really have to gauge your brain's just like you're checking your CPU, activity level.
Yeah.
So what I would do was, I had 15 books piled up on this side, and then whenever my fan was working too hard in the background for history.
I think Hyunwoo's trying to tell us he's actually a computer.
So one part was overheated, so I would actually move it to the left side of my desk and then drag down another textbook. It's a fresh distraction. I think it is important to know how you work as a student, as a learner.
Yeah, and I think nobody else can tell you exactly what kind of goal you should set. For me, I did something similar with Korean, not quite that long, but I would do about 8 hours or so. And that's not 8 hours a day of sitting and studying with a book. My brain would have exploded if I did that. It would be, about maybe an hour in a grammar book, and then my brain starts to fry and starts to shut down. So you switch to a different book, a different activity, and keep it fresh, and then you can keep going.
We've been mainly talking about time, but if you're talking about different aspects of the language, I believe that if you are going to try to spend the minimum, the minimal amount of time on this language and not bother with it anymore, I think rather than trying to absorb many vocabulary words which can kind of become blurry.
Right.
I think it is more important to try to understand the general structure of the language. In my personal experience with several languages, I think it's always more beneficial to just have a clear understanding of this, how this language works. I actually spent more time studying Spanish grammar and how the sentences are made. But I don't necessarily have all the vocabulary words that I will need to express
actually
myself.
speak it, yeah.
But vocabulary words are easy to look up in the dictionary. I can work around things too.
Right, if you know the grammar, you can explain something without knowing.
Yeah, if you don't know the word, aeropuerto, airport, you can say things like a place where you get on airplanes.
Yeah, there you go.
It works. If you don't know how the words are formed, the sentences are formed, you can never do that. You can never do anything. So I would say at least get your pronunciation. Some greetings, of course, should come first. But then how much should you study? I think at least having a clear understanding of how this language works. I think that's the minimal amount.
That would be a better goal to set for yourself.
That's why I really appreciate what you're doing. You're not just throwing in random greetings, cool phrases that kids these days in Korea use. You are touching upon fundamental structures.
Oh, grammar. Oh, thank you.
Grammar.
That's what I want to do.
We do that too. We regard that as something really, really important. Beyond that point, I think the question of how much Korean should I learn is all about more vocabulary words, more hip phrases. That's it, right?
Right.
Nothing else to it.
One more tip, I guess, is that if you're going to be setting a goal and you're not sure how long you should study for, I think in the beginning, you might be safer to set a higher goal. The reason is I think that people, when they're first starting to learn a language, are really motivated. And if you set a goal of like 5 hours a day and you only study 4, you're not gonna feel down about yourself. When you set a really high goal later on, then it's a lot harder to do that because you lose a lot of the initial enthusiasm and motivation that you have in the beginning.
Kind of related to that, I would also recommend that you set goals that are visible. Goals that can have visible results that you can instantly share with other people. If you have a goal that's really not visible, how can you even talk about it? Like, there's nothing to show for it. For example, if you want to write 1 page in your journal in Korean, that's easy to take a picture of and share. Also, if you have 1 song that you want to be able to sing along without looking at the lyrics, that's a very visible goal that you can show people, show yourself to, remind yourself of. I always like to do those things. And one good example is, of course, solving questions in a workbook. You can clearly see your record of everything. Set goals that are easy to talk about and show examples of.
I think it's a really good suggestion. Sometimes people feel like they're studying Korean, as we had mentioned before, and you don't feel like you're improving, you don't really feel like you're doing too much, and being able to look at your progress and look at exactly what you're doing helps you to kind of get rid of those negative feelings.
And that's why many fitness gyms have mirrors everywhere in the locker rooms too. You want to see that pump like in your chest. And after a good shoulder workout, you're like, oh, my shoulder is as broad as this building. You're walking like that. And if it was some mental exercise, you can't see the evidence of it anywhere. You are that much less motivated.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're exercising a lot, but you never get to look at how you're improving or not improving, then you don't know where you're really going.
My wife, after giving birth to our first son, she gained 24 kilos or something like that during her pregnancy. She set this goal of having a professional photo shoot of her body.
Oh wow, that's really that's a pretty big goal.
She put down the deposit money. She actually reserved the studio and a photographer. She worked really crazy hard, and did everything that a fitness model would do. Photos came out amazing, and she's really happy about it. And after giving birth to our second son, she knows more clearly how to do it again. She's fit now again because she's done that.
That's great.
Like very visible experience.
So if you can, as much as possible, try to do things that will get visual goals that you can use to help keep yourself motivated toward that.
We're living in the era of self-expression, self-show-offs.
Sure.
Social media.
Everyone has something they want to show off.
I think we're used to it. And if only language learning isn't giving us that, we might just walk away from it. So we should also apply the same things to language learning.
And with that, we will finish this episode. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Billy.
I'm Hyunwoo.
현우. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.
다음에 또 봐요.
또 봐요.
Bye bye.